How do you take a company focusing on SMBs and mid-market to go to an enterprise level focus? That's a big jump, and oftentimes many companies can't make that jump and end up failing. In this episode, we're going to tell you what you should do to avoid that fall and to help your sales team to be as successful as possible landing enterprise level clients. Check it out. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another great episode of the Sales Evangelist Podcast. I'm your host, Donald C. Kelly, the Sales Evangelist. And I'm so excited for another great episode. I'm so excited to be here with you today. And on this episode, I'm talking with Adam Block. Adam is the Chief Revenue Officer over at Motive. And Motive did something really unique. Like I mentioned in a teaser, they took an organization focusing on mid-level organizations and jumped up to enterprise level. The way they went about doing that was interesting. And I know as a sales leader listening to this episode, many of you are looking at it, well, how can I get my team to go up market? What is it that they did? Now, I'm going to prep you. Adam is going to share with you some things that maybe not be popular. This is, not like, hey, here's the email pitch that we did, or here's the, the sequence we used, or the tools. That stuff, you can find that all the time. But the actual structure, the strategy, and how they went about doing that, that's what we're going to tackle today. If this is your first time listening to this episode, whether you're an individual contributor or a leader, I want you to go ahead and subscribe, and I'll make sure we notify you every time we drop a new piece of content. Now, if you've been here for a long time, please go ahead and connect with me on LinkedIn. Tell me how you heard about the podcast and what you find best from it. As we dive into the episode, not only you get a chance to learn about some of the cool things that Adam has done, you'll be able to see why I brought him on a podcast. He has loads of experience, bringing some years of wisdom, working for some pretty awesome organization and growing teams and strengthening them to be successful. His backstory, as you go on LinkedIn, you'll see it, tells why he is so awesome. As you dive into this episode, you get a chance to learn a little bit more about why Motive decided to go upstream and to see how this can benefit you as a leader or individual contributor and your organization. Adam, welcome to the show.
Don, thanks for having me. So excited to be here with you.
Oh, I am super pumped. And the main reason I'm pumped because I always love stories where people are able to peel back the onion or peel back the wall and show us behind the scenes. And in our previous conversation, we had a discussion around this about what you guys did to go up market to where you are right now. I bragged about you a little bit, but why don't you tell us a little bit more about what you overall, the organization, so that it can help set the frame for how you guys went up market.
Sure. So Motive is an AI-powered operations platform that's built for the physical economy, industries like logistics and construction and energy and field services, public sector, to run safer and more efficient and more profitable operations. And what's unique about Motive is that we're the only solution that allows safety, operations, and finance team to manage their drivers, their vehicles, their equipment, and their fleet-related spend in a single integrated system. Our AI is proven to be far more performative and accurate and responsive and fast than any other provider. So companies that you would know, like FedEx and Halliburton and Centos, are reducing costs and improving safety and using Motive. So that's really kind of what we do as a business.
So you guys were clearly, obviously, you clearly have something of worth that's helping a lot of these organizations. But it came to a point, executive team said they wanted to swim upstream, wanted to go upstream. Talk to me about that. What was that like? What was the decision that made you all say we want to go upstream? And then we can go into how you guys did that.
Well, it's a great question, and it's a really great story. And the truth is that while the executive team made the decision to invest in the opportunity to go service the world's largest customers, it was really the customers that took us there. It was the market that wanted us to do this. And so if you back up and you think about Motive has been around for 12 years. And we got our start predominantly in compliance for trucking, for transportation. And we serviced a lot of medium-sized customers, a lot of SMB, some mid-market, and kind of commercial size. But we weren't doing a ton with larger enterprise type customers, but we still grew to hundreds of millions of dollars in ARR. We were servicing over 100,000 active customer accounts. But what kept happening was that we were getting interest from larger and larger customers, multinational customers, and companies that were in other industries outside of transportation. So going back to what I was talking about before, agriculture, oil and gas, construction, manufacturing, food and bev, energy and utilities, passenger transit. And so this is what ultimately created the opportunity, was our technology working well and the market having a demand for us to service a broader and larger set of customers.
This is no easy task to, because you have people coming to you, which is great, but then taking that outbound is not an easy thing to do. I've done it, worked with many organizations similar to try it, and it can be challenging. Talk to me. You guys have been very successful getting up market now. Talk to me about what you guys did to make that happen. What was your step one, and guide us through that process?
Yeah. So the first thing was the decision to finally say, as an executive team and as a board, we are going to do this, and that's a big decision. And so there were kind of three main things that took place here. One was that we had to scale without breaking what was already working. Right? There's the old doctor's oath, which is do no harm. Right? And so we had to make a commitment that, yes, while we were going to invest in infrastructure and architecture and integration layer, and we were going to be much more responsive technology and a technology that can work with multiple hierarchies, with more complex organizations, we had to promise and make a commitment to not abandon the customers that got us here. So that was a big piece of that investment. And we also had to quantify, what was the TAM going to look like? How are we going to measure success? As we're approaching this market and we're investing in it and we're starting to scale and find great people, how do we know that we're succeeding? So we put in a whole performance management system. And this was critical for us to be able to not only say, yes, we're making contact with the market, but we know what the market is. And we know that these contacts are turning into engagements, and those engagements are turning into a forecast, and that forecast is turning into ARR, so that folks can come here and they can do great as a salesperson. I know that this is a predominantly a sales a podcast, so we had to prove that, right? We had to prove that, yes, you can come and you can make a lot of money, but it's because you're servicing a market that has great demand and that wants you. But again, it started with don't break something that's great that already exists here. And I'll kind of touch on the next two and then be happy to answer questions about it. The second is that we really had to rewire our business for the enterprise. And I think this is really important because, as I mentioned a moment ago, this wasn't just rewiring the technology itself. We had to think about, well, if you're going to approach a construction company or a tree services business, these organizations have different needs than somebody that's in food and bev. They have different needs than somebody who's in public sector or transportation. So we had to really understand and bring in the subject matter expertise. We had to rethink the way in which our operations were working, because if you're working with an organization that has lots and lots of users and a longer scale rollout, well, you have to think about how that's going to work versus a mid-market organization that will buy one thing, roll it all out at one time, and they're good to go. We even rebranded our business, which is kind of wild to think about. So we were previously Keep Truckin', and it was about 3 years ago, 3.5, 4 years ago, we decided to rebrand to become Motive. And again, part of the reason for this is that we wanted to show to the world that we're a provider for the entire physical economy. And we were already working with many industries at that point. And so the name change just made sense. And then thirdly, we had to hire the right people, right? So it's one thing to make a decision to do it and make investments in it and decide you're not going to do any harm with your current clients. Then you're creating the technology and the brand and all of the market research and the operation to support these customers. And that all happened before we made the decision to build out the organization. And we went out and found some of the top sellers, not just in this industry, but I would argue in all of technology.
That's fascinating. The first one was one that that I really wanted to get into because it's tempting to go up market, but when your whole business is built on, say, mid market and so forth, like you're saying, do no harm, you could cannibalize what you're doing and cause a lot of problems where you issue, the revenue you have decrease, and executive shareholders might get upset. And I think that part is often overlooked. And it's one of the mistakes I made in one of our organization before. I abandoned what we were doing, trying to go for a bigger group, but I didn't do it right. I didn't have that, I guess, set it up properly to scale. I don't know if that makes sense. And I think so as soon as you mentioned that first one, I was really wanting to double tap on that. How, if I'm a leader listening to this podcast, what should I be looking at to make sure I do no harm with my sales team if we're going upstream?
Well, you don't want to be a jack of all trades and master of none, right? This is something that I think is really important. While inside of our business, we have multiple segments. And the segments operate differently, right? They have a different service profile for the different types of customers that we serve. They have different quotas. They have different support. So our ecosystem, think about a sales engineer or a business value team or a customer success support or somebody in account management. As a customer gets more complex, and that's not always just the size of their account, by the way. Sometimes it's just for whatever the nature of their business and operation and tech stack is, they're very complex. We had to make the decision that we were going to support customers where they are and by what they needed from us. So as an example, we decided to take certain pieces of our business and actually constrict the size of TAM for that business. And what that allowed us to do is reduce the book size for each AE or each account manager. Now, sometimes that can be scary if you're an account executive, right? We're all in sales and everybody wants to have all of this opportunity. But the truth is that the best engagements are really, really hard when you're spread too thin and you have too many customers to support. And so our customer experience metrics went up. Our average attainment went up, all as a result of making this focus to reduce book size and give better visibility into each individual customer account, as opposed to trying to manage a whole lot with all this technology. And I think this is something that a lot of businesses get wrong right now. So if you're curious on what I would coach other leaders to, don't get sucked into this world of AI managing all your relationships. Don't get fooled by the promise of you're going to measure everything and it's going to tell you what customer is happy and what customer is unhappy, and that's the only way you know. These companies, especially in our business where we're talking about very critical physical operations, these organizations want to build a relationship with us and know that we're there to support them. So I would say for anybody who's a leader today, that's a big sort of, it's an opportunity, of course, AI and the transformation that we're going through. But I think it's also a huge risk.
Did the brand change impact the existing? I guess it probably wouldn't, because you're going after a total new market. So they didn't really know you at all as Keep Trucking, right? Let's Keep Trucking.
Keep trucking. Yeah. So we definitely were not as present years ago with larger and larger businesses. I mean, we're some, don't get me wrong. We've had very long-standing relationships with some great organizations, but today, of course, we work with, global multinational corporations, FedEx, Halliburton, Kone Elevator, right? Davey Tree. And so the brand of Motive is much more applicable today than it was years ago. But again, Keep Trucking kind of implied that we were only servicing trucking, which was really not the case. I mean, in the beginning it was, but over time, we've not only widened our platform to have a much bigger impact. I mean, we're in workforce management now. We do a lot of asset tracking and equipment monitoring. One of our new customers, in fact, It's tracking tens of thousands of assets. It really has nothing to do with the transportation side of what they have. And so the Motive was just a much better sort of brand match for our market, especially as you think about international, you think about public sector, which really doesn't have much transportation at all. They have public works and school buses and other types of operations there. So it just made a whole lot more sense to just update it everywhere. And it's pretty cool. When I'm driving down the road, I will see Motive stickers on vehicles, of course. But you do from time to time still see the Keep Trucking stickers on cars. So that's a little nostalgic for sure.
That's pretty cool, though. Is there any lessons that you guys learned with that? I put it down, the infrastructure or rebranding adjustment, which was point number 2.
But you just have to hold a high bar, right? I mean, the reality for us is that we are in control of our own narrative as a business, right? Nobody else. There's no customer out there. There's no competitor, right? They can create a perception, which I think can be, something that you have to kind of fight, right? Is fear, uncertainty, and doubt out there. But we're in control of our own company narrative, and I think if we have a great product, and we do, we have a world-class leading technology, and so we let it speak for itself. We encourage customers to test it, and so that's what we did. And I'll give Shoaib, our CEO, our CTO, our CPO, a lot of credit here, where we've held a very, very high bar for the responsiveness, the uptime, the reliability, the speed of our technology. When you have a great product, Don, I know this sounds simple, but it certainly makes it easier on the sales team, right? I mean, it's, we all have worked for companies where maybe this piece worked okay, but it's my job to sell this thing. And there's another side of this for us that I think is very special, and that is, one of our primary value drivers is that we are saving lives. We are helping people get home to their families. We are helping neighbors to stay alive, friends. And so it's really great to not only have a leading technology, but to have one that is so mission critical that it's not only making sure that things get to where they need to be to keep society running, but also saving people's lives along the way. But the answer to your question is you have to hold a very, very high bar for your brand and your narrative and your technology. And in our case, hiring, right? So we did that same thing with hiring folks. And we have a model that we call RAD, where it's resilience, accountability, and discipline. And so these are components that we aren't looking for somebody that has the background of fleet or asset or spend management or something. We're looking for somebody who is driven. We're looking for somebody who has a high business acumen, who cares about the customer problem, and is willing to do the hard things even when they don't want to, right? Which is kind of the definition of discipline. And so these are things that I think we've done a great job of holding a very, very high bar across the board here.
How do you find that in an interview? Because everybody sounds like they'll say the talk, say whatever they need on Friday, and then Monday comes and it's like, who in the world did I hire? Where's the guy that was here or gal?
Yes.
What did you guys do in that interview process? Panel interviews, multiple interviews? I'm just curious to understand.
Well, it's still not perfect, but it's pretty good. Our attrition is low. And our success rate is high with quota attainment. And so, and that's just in sales, right? Of course, our business has operations. We have folks that are SDRs. So I'll back up for a moment. We did overhaul the interview process. We did this shortly after I started. And part of that was, what questions are we asking? How do we put somebody in a situation, right? If you ask somebody, hey, tell me about when you were accountable. Well, that's not a situation, right? That's just them talking about some philosophical thing, and you can get canned responses. So what we try to figure out is, how do I have a natural discussion with somebody and pull out of them indicators of where they have failed and what they did when they failed, where did they succeed and what did they learn from that? How did they get others to parlay that success? What is it that drives this person? Because Donald, there is very little interest in leadership to motivate people. right? I mean, it is very hard to motivate people. I would say it's almost impossible, right? In fact, you just want to go and hire motivated people. that's the we will guide, lead, teach, coach, inspire. So that means that you have to test for how much do they want to succeed. What is it that they are willing to do. And so I don't think a one size fits all here. I mean, we have a panel interview and we try to put people a little bit on their toes, but we're not trying to trick anybody, right? We want to find great people that are interested in our business. But there is one other thing that we did, and that is we created something that took a long time, and that was internal opportunity for people to move up in their careers. So it is not uncommon for us to hire somebody that might be more junior, and maybe they're coming out of college and they're going to start off their career as being an SDR. They do well there, then they become an enterprise SDR, then they become a mid-market AE, and then they become an enterprise AE. And so this bridge program, this farm system for us is something that we're very, very proud of. And so it kind of takes the guessing game out. Instead of hiring for multiple roles that might have a similar type of profile and background, we usually introduce folks to one or two starting places, and then we give them additional opportunity as they earn it. And that way, we've really seen a lot better success in the field.
I love this. Talk to me about where you are right now. Let's wrap this all back together. So, how long did it take for your indicators that you guys first established to show that we are at success at enterprise level? Was this a 6-month process, a year or 2-year process that you?
It was about. Yeah, it's a great question. The first signals came about 6 months in, and those signals were in the form of leading indicators, though. Right, we had to, especially in enterprise, right? The enterprise and the strategic organization. When I started here about 2.5 years ago, we had less than 10 people. Today, we have nearly 120 in just that org. So we are 10x the size, or more than 10x the size. We 5x'd the ARR of the enterprise organization in about 7 quarters. So it was a great performance by the team, but it didn't happen right away, right? It took those first 6 to 9 months was when we had to have the stomach for it, as we were investing in the program and tracking the leading indicators, things like market contact and meetings and demos and trials. That's something that seems to be common in our business, is a proof of concept or proof of value or a trial. And then, of course, having a forecast and attainment. So we had to track all of those all the way along. We're coming off of Q2 2025, by far our biggest quarter that we've ever had as a business across the board. And in fact, the enterprise business in Q2 alone was bigger than the entire enterprise business just 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago when I started. So you can see that like the momentum is there, and it's really started to manifest itself into something that's much more predictable, right? We now have an enterprise playbook. It drives growth. It's durable by balancing growth and discipline and ambition and intention. So that's where we are today. And I guess to go one step further, we're going to be a public company. I mean, right now, we're a very, very large organization. We are kind of at the end of our private journey. It's been great to us. But with our scale and our robust growth and our strong fundamentals, we're building a solid foundation that's going to position us when the time is right, which is coming up. And that means really focusing on building this operational excellence and the predictability that makes for a great public company. And so we are ready now, and we have those initiatives underway.
That's amazing, man. Well, congratulations. I know a lot of leaders listening to this is appreciative of these ideas, what you're sharing here that can help you guys out. If you were to bottle it all up in one major advice that you would give to someone that's considering taking their team upstream, what would you tell them? What's that one major piece of advice?
You have to be very intentional. And one of the ways somebody is intentional is they are honest. You have to challenge each other, meaning that executive and board level support and buy-in is absolutely critical. It is absolutely critical because everybody likes to do this, right? But as you and I know, the technology graveyard is littered with organizations that have tried to go from down market to up market. And usually that happens at the first sign or second sign of adversity. There's something that's going to take place that is going to make you, it's going to take longer than you think. It might take more money than you think. Maybe you lose a giant deal you were working really, really hard on, whatever it may be. And so having that alignment and buy-in and intention with the executive team and ideally the investors is critical. I don't see how this would have worked without that support.
Yeah, I think that's when you spent a lot of time with that at the beginning explaining that. I figured it was probably pretty key. Hard to go upstream without that.
It was fun. It's high pressure. We moved fast, but the reward has been absolutely fantastic for the folks here at Motive and for our customers and for our investors. And so it can be very rewarding, but it's there are days where you got to stick with it and you got to be bold.
You got to be disciplined. You got to be rad.
That's right. You got to be rad.
Listen, Adam, I appreciate you taking the time to come on the show today. Folks want to get connected to you or learn more about what you guys are doing at Motive. What's the best way for them to go about doing so?
GoMotive.com. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'd love to hear from all of you.
Okay. Well, we'll go ahead and drop that in our show notes. Adam, appreciate you sharing this and peeling the onion back and showing us behind the scenes here. It helps us out a lot. So thank you.
Donald, thank you so much.
Hey, that was Adam Block. I'm telling you, this was awesome. I'm fascinated. The first point that he shared was around how they decided to go upstream, and specifically how you make sure you don't mess up what you already have. That's something that is real. That is an issue that I had. I remember at one point with TSE, and that's what I was touching base on. We decided to go up for a larger clientele, and I started leaving the people that we worked with from so long. And the problem that I had was I didn't prepare it properly, and we saw a fall off. And then I was able to quickly ratify and fix the issue that helped us to get back. And yes, we started working with some enterprise level organization, but I can tell you that first point, I didn't do it properly. And it was a little setback, but I'm grateful that we've learned over the years and got back up and growing. Listen, a lot of great insights from this episode. I want you to tell me, or tell Adam too, what was it that jumped out to you the most? What insight that you felt was more interesting to you? As always, I want you to thrive. I want you to succeed. Every time we bring on guests like Adam, it is to do a simple thing. Help you to, 1, build a better pipeline, or 2, to accelerate deals through the pipeline faster. This can help you to get up to that pipeline level with larger organizations, but doing it right. If you know somebody else that should be listening to our podcast, go ahead and introduce them to us. I would appreciate that. As always, I want you to thrive. I want you to succeed. I want you to raise your level of thinking. And as a leader, I want you to smash it. As a seller, I want you to be successful. But most importantly, I want you to go out and do big things. See you on the next one.